Hey everyone, welcome back. We are here to do our final video on the Queen's Gambit. I'm Dr. Jackie, I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist, and this show had me thinking a lot of things and feeling a lot of feelings, so here we go.
Floating around up there, Ditto just hollering at you.
Felt funny.
Shit. Bet it felt good. What you gonna do at night?
I'm gonna stay awake.
So for those of you who don't know, that is our protagonist Beth and Jolene. They are two of the oldest girls that are still left at this orphanage. In the previous episodes, they show that they were lining up all the children and giving them benzodiazepines. And you could tell this because after Beth took her first dose, you could see that she was feeling a little lightheaded, woozy, tired, disoriented, and then completely passes out because she overdosed. So obviously she's not allowed to get any benzodiazepines anymore. Benzodiazepines are a medication that you cannot just stop abruptly if they are taking a certain dose. It's something that you definitely want to slowly titrate down so that it's less dangerous and less uncomfortable. If you saw my previous video talking about attachment using Grogu and the Mandalorian, you can see that there is definitely attachment between Mr. Scheibel and Beth.
They won't let me play anymore.
This is so important when you think about who are the adults in children's lives and who's there to keep them safe and foster their interests. Coaches are oftentimes this person for children, but also teachers. Whenever you're asking children about their life in general, I think a lot of people will ask about their home life, but the majority of children's lives are spent at school or with clubs or sports. So it's really important to ask who are the adults that they look up to, aside from their parents, if they're parents at all. They're all grown up and smoking cigarettes. So at this point, Beth showed up when she was 10, correct? And then now they're about 15. So they've basically grown up together.
They call you Elizabeth? Or is it Betty?
So for anybody who watched my other video on asking what people prefer to be called when you first meet them, even when you think that you know how to pronounce it, you could be pronouncing it incorrectly, and a name is just so important. So I think it's kind of funny that he asked, what do they call you? Is it Elizabeth or Betty? The other reason why you want to do this, especially in medicine, is that the legal name might be on the paperwork, but that might not be their preferred name. If there is a lot of distress with the name that they were given at birth and have a different preferred name, you really don't want to be adding to that distress.
She is at the top of her class in reading and arithmetic.
That's very impressive.
She is the model Methuen girl.
I can see that.
What's also interesting here is that the wife was doing most of the talking. When you meet a family, you kind of want to figure out who speaks for the family or on behalf of the family. Do different members of the family have different views, or do they all seem to agree in general about everything? So that's something that you kind of want to observe.
I can't find my book.
Modern chess openings.
In a previous video, I talked about transitional objects, which helps you move on from different phases of your life to transition a little bit easier, and that often is an object that might remind you of a person that you're attached to. And this book, the chess openings book, was given to Beth by Mr. Scheibel, so clearly means a lot to her.
I'm sorry that you didn't get adopted.
And obviously, Jolene is upset about not being adopted, and Beth apologizes for that as if she had anything to do with it. But how often do people do this where they will say, it's fine, I'm okay, and clearly feel a different way? Somebody walks into my office, talking about their relationships is often something that gets brought up even if I don't mention it first. When I used to treat adults, this relationship might be with their siblings, that they felt like there was a lot of conflict through the years, or even their parents or grandparents and mourning that loss. In life, there's just so many different relationships. People come and go, and how you enter that relationship and how you might end that relationship can really affect a person. You could hold on to that for quite a long time and develop this narrative that is very painful. If you got to watch the show or binged it after watching my videos, which I know a few have, you'll see that she really wants to make sure that Mr. Scheibel knows that she honors him in every news article that she's featured in as she becomes a little bit more famous in chess, but they often don't allow for that or don't include him in the write-ups, and that's very hurtful for her. Later, she goes back after Jolene finds her because Mr. Scheibel actually passed away, and that was really painful given that she never really got to say goodbye.
We're so glad to have an older child.
So what I have to say about this is that you want to take a look at what the function of them deciding to adopt Beth really was. What was it that they were looking for? What were their expectations around adopting a child together? The wife or the mom mentioned that they really were happy to have an older child. What is that about?
Do you like animals? I do. I love them. Alston is allergic to most pet dander, though, so I'm not allowed to.
I'm curious about the relationship between the wife and the husband. I'm interested because he communicates largely through clearing his throat when he feels uncomfortable or he doesn't agree with something that's being said, which is one way of communicating.
We've been home for 2 days.
Gives you some time to get to know your new companion. I doubt there's much to know. Girl doesn't seem to have a heck of a lot to say.
So we get a little bit of insight into what their relationship is like. It seems like the husband travels a lot for work, and he uses a very interesting word to describe Beth, which is companion. I wonder if they adopted Beth to keep the wife company while he's gone. I also find it hilarious that he thinks that Beth doesn't really have very much to say because he clearly doesn't really use words very often. I also wonder what it's like for Beth to observe this, given that she observed this quite often as a child between her own parents. It must be bringing up a lot of memories for her.
Where did Mr. Wheatley go?
Business trip. Our man has to travel quite a bit these days. As he likes to remind me, it keeps the roof over our heads.
The first or second time I watched this show too, I don't think I appreciated that the first thing that she asked when she came downstairs was, where did Mr. Wheatley go?
Habit. I've also always suffered from a terrible case of stage fright, which does not bode well for an aspiring performer. And then I got pregnant.
You have a child?
We did, yes.
I don't think that we ever find out what happened to Mr. and Mrs. Wheatley's child, but that might explain why they decided to adopt an older child like Beth. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I hope that you have a really awesome week. I'm currently looking for the next thing that I want to comment on. We'll see. If anybody has any ideas, reach out to me on Instagram or comment down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you at the next video.